Let's now start working on the textures for the Kukri. I'm going to Substance Painter and let me go to File and New to create a new project and select our Kukri logo and press OK. Okay, as you can see, everything is good. Let me start first by baking the textures, but before I get started, as you can see, here we have the materials that we have in Blender, and as you can see we have the material which is blade and material 1. And of course I will need only one material for this object, so this is a tip for you. If I went to Blender, in the low poly model we can find here this guy has the material blade and also this part, but this one has the material 1, so I will need to switch this material to blade. Let me check the rest of the objects. Okay, this guy also has the material 1, so I'm going to delete it. And of course select everything and export as FBX. This is the low one, like so. And again, File, New, select the low poly model. And of course I am leaving everything as default and press OK. As you can see, we have only one material, and of course you can rename it if you want. Let me now start the baking process, and I'm going to start with the normals, so select none and select the normal, and let me just do a baking test before I get started. So I'm going to bake with 2K textures and select our high poly model to bake from. For the distance I'm going to keep it something like 0.03, and I may change it later. And of course for the match is going to be by mesh name. That's why we named our objects in Blender high and low. So it's going to bake from each object which is called high to the same object with the same name with the name low. Okay, I don't usually tend to increase this guy, but increasing it will give you better quality for the textures, and of course it's going to take a lot of time, but for me I'm just going to stick with none and press bake. Okay, as you can see, everything is nice. Okay, there is an issue here, and of course let me go to Blender to see what's wrong with this guy. I think there is something wrong with the normals of this guy. Let me go from here and in edit mode activate the normals for the faces. As you can see, the normals of these parts are pointing outward, but for this part it's pointing inward, and this is wrong of course, so I'm going to select them and press Ctrl Shift and N, and as you can see now it's facing in the right direction. And of course you can inverse it from here if you want. Let me again export this guy. The high one, and export. And now again in Substance I'm just going to delete this guy and add our new one, and let me bake this time. As you can see, the problem is solved and everything is working correctly. Let me now bake with 4K, and I usually go with the baking process in 2 shots. The first one is to bake the normals and the wall space normal. Of course, the ID, we are not going to use it. And I also bake the curvature and the position. I just leave the ambient occlusion and the thickness because both of them requires a lot to process. So let me now bake. Okay, let me continue baking, and this time I'm going to bake only the ambient occlusion and the thickness. Okay, now the baking is done, and let me check our resolution. Let me just reset the UI, and I just want to increase the resolution like so, and it really looks nice. As you can see, we have the details of the high poly model in the low poly model with the use of normals and other textures. And of course, now we can use any kind of materials or smart materials to create our textures. So let's get started. I'm going to use a lot of layers for each material, and I'm not going to go intense for the layers of this one. I just want to keep it simple, and I think we will go more advanced later. Okay, let me now start with the blade, and I will need, of course, to create the metal for this guy. So let me first find a reference. I'm going to use this reference for the textures, and I am using this software, which is PureRef. I think any 3D artist knows about it, and it's simply allowing you to view any image on top of the applications that you use, which is a good way of using references. So now let's get started with the metal. I'm going to just add a fill layer, and let me just take the resolution down. And for this layer, I'm going to give it something metallic, like so. Increase the metallic and decrease the roughness a little bit. And I think I will go for a color like this, I think. Okay. And now I'm going to start working on the details. So let me start with this guy, and this one is just directional noise, and we can apply it to our model by using the height. For me, I tend always to use each layer for each level of details. That's why I'm going to create a new fill layer, and this one is going to be directional noise. And for this one, of course, I will only need the height, and I'm just going to look for the directional noise. I think this one will work, and add it to the height. And as you can see, the direction isn't right. I may rotate it like so. Okay, I think this is better, and it looks black from here, which means that it's too intense. So I'm just going to for the height and decrease the opacity of the height on this layer. as you can see, something like 5 or 6. And now, as you can see also, this is too big, so I'm going to increase the scale of the texture, something like 5. Okay, maybe 7. Let me increase it more, something like 8. This is nice, but it's still too intense, so I'm going to make this guy something like 3. I think this is way better. Okay, this is our base metal. Now let me add more details for the surface, and for this one I'm going to make it clean, and I'm not going to give it a lot of dirt and dust, I think, or something like rust. Just I'm going to keep it clean, as you can see in the reference. So I'm going to add this time, I think, something interesting, like some bumpy parts on the surface. So let me add a new layer, and this layer is going to affect only the height. And let me look for something in the noise. I think something like this. And as you can see, it's too intense, so I'm going to take it down like so. Let me just see. Okay, I'm going just to leave it 1. It's giving a little bit of details for the surface, which is what I want. I think this directional noise is huge, so I'm going to make it 2. I think this is better. Okay, this is nice for now. I'm going to add a new layer. Let me just call this one noise, and for this layer is going to be dirt, and I only want to affect, I think, color. I may change it later, and let me go for something like so for the dirt, something like brown color and dark color like so. And let me add a black mask, and I'm going to add a generator on top of this mask, and let me select something like the curvature. And as you can see, we have this dirt layer, which is intense, of course. And as I said, if I was going to something like a dusty and dirty look for this Kukri, which have been used a lot, I may leave it as it is, but I want to make it clean. That's why I'm going to go for the base color layer and take the opacity down, something like this. So I think I removed the effect of this layer, but as you can see, at 60% it gave us something interesting for the model, just slightly. Okay, I may also give it some scratches, but not a lot, of course, because it haven't been used a lot. So let me give it another layer, and this one is going to be scratches. And I think I will use only the color and add a black mask and add a fill to this mask, and let me look for the scratches. Okay, let me see in the residuals and look for scratches. I think I'm going to use this guy here, and as you can see, it gave us these scratches. Let me just give it a black color like so, something like the dirt layer. And as you can see, we have scratches and we have a lot of them. I'm going also to enable the height and take it down so we have something interesting. But as you know, I don't want to have a lot of scratches because I want it to be clean. So I'm going to take them down. I think decrease the balance like so. And I also going to take with the color, take it down a little bit for the opacity and also for the height like so. Maybe more, something like 7. And for the color I'm going to something like this. I think okay, I think this is good. It looks clean but still have and something interesting for the shape. Okay, I think I'm now done with this part of the metal, the silver part or the steel part, and I think I will need to start working on the coated metal here. So let me just go first and select all these parts by pressing Shift and Control G to group them, and I'm going to call this one blade steel. Let's now start working on the coated metal.